Hello, Julian.
Hi, Mike. What are we going to talk about tonight?
Death.
Oh, dear. Well, and horses?
Yeah, and a bit of physiotherapy.
Okay, and university, presumably?
Yeah.
Great. Well, let's get Emily Woodbridge on and start chatting.
Okay, let's get her in.
Hi, I'm Mike Brampton.
And my name is Julian Ho.
Welcome to Veterinary Ramblings.
Hi.
Hello, Emily.
Hi. Welcome to Veterinary Ramblings. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Brilliant stuff.
Emily, I couldn't help noticing on the little picture that shows up before you put your video on, there's you standing next to a horse.
Yes.
Now, is this the horse? I don't want to sort of step in at the middle, as it were, but is this the horse that had an injury that then prompted you to become a physio?
She is a very big kind of reasoning as to why I'm the physio I am today.
Mm-hmm.
I actually got her about 2 months before I started my course, but she really was a very big driving kind of factor of why I'm doing physio. So she's not kind of the catalyst, but she was very influential to my studies.
What's her name?
Her name is Maddie, or her racing name was Madame Ascension. So she was a flat racer, thoroughbred, chestnut mare. So anyone who knows horses will know I was probably quite insane for buying her. And she was just one of a kind of a horse. Sadly, she isn't with me anymore.
Oh.
She died 2 years in September.
Right.
So, but she was very, very poorly. She had bilateral hock arthritis, bilateral locking stifles. She had a tilted and late fracture of her pelvis from her racing days. She had 5 places kissing spines, and this horse, she was quite broken, and they hadn't even looked at the front end. And she's one of the big reasons why I quite not enjoy palliative kind of physiotherapy, but I'm very much empathetic to people who are going through kind of palliative kind of care. The physio I was able to provide her did actually prolong her life and make her more comfortable, until I kind of was like, enough's enough now, because she was never going to become right. She was always going to be lame in a field. And horses, unfortunately, aren't cheap. And I couldn't afford to have a horse that was going to need consistent care. I'm meaning 3 meals a day, constant medication. She would constantly lose weight. I couldn't afford that. It was kind of a hard emotionally for me. And she just wasn't happy. So I kind of was like, I'm calling it a day, because to me, it wasn't fair.
Do you know that, and that's not a bad thing, actually. I think that's a good choice. We're often compared. People compare veterinary practitioners of any sort, whether it's surgeons, nurses, medics, physiotherapists. We're compared with the human side of things, aren't we? And the human edict is to keep life going at all costs, at all states, and at all levels of health and ill health. With us, we recognise that there are some levels of health that aren't acceptable. And if we can't afford that, money has to come into it. If we can't afford it, the reality is we can't let an animal suffer.
I say it all the time when I talk to my own kind of clients about this kind of decision. My opinion is an unpopular one. I don't believe in extending an animal's life if the quality of life is deteriorating for my own personal gain. To me, ethically, that is wrong. And I think we have such a privilege to be able to kind of end their life at a point where they won't suffer a long time. For example, in Maddie's case, I chose to opt for euthanasia before winter. So in summer, when she was moving, before the arthritis started, she had a nice amount of weight on her. She was happy, because what I didn't want is for her stifles to lock in the mud, her to fall over, and her have to go out in the cold and the wet. She looked lovely, and her coat would change a lovely colour. So she'd go from bright orange to like a burnt copper. And she was this lovely, bright carrot ginger. She looked beautiful. And, you know, my boyfriend said something to me. He was very helpful to me throughout the whole process. And he said, you know, she has lived such a nice life and you've been able to give her a nice life, and just remember, you should have to remember her where she was good. And, you know, I was very kind of torn up whether this was the right decision. And she did have a nice, good couple of last months. She had haylage, she had carrots every day. She was living life. So
we always say, you know, I hope they had a good life, but
yeah,
I think an equal comment should be, I hope they had a good death.
Exactly. And, you know, death can be very peaceful, and it can be quite elegant in a way, especially when horses can go. They're such elegant animals and they're such big presences to lose. Don't get me wrong, a dog is awful. I've lost a dog. It's heart-shattering. You know, I don't have children. I'm 22, nowhere near the age of having children, but they're part of our families. And she was like my child, and it was losing a very big presence in my life, but she just went so beautifully.
You said that Maddie was a big influence, and that comes across. Obviously, you've gone through quite a lot with her. How did you first meet her?
Oh, God. I've never been horsey. My family have never been horsey. We've always owned kind of dogs and cats.
Right.
And I had this friend who owned and trained horses. And I would often go with her to kind of because the physiotherapy course where I was applying do both canine and equine. And to gain a BSc in physiotherapy for animals, you have to qualify both canine and equine. So I had to gain these skills. So I'd go around with her all the time, and we went to pick up this horse, and she'd let me ride hers. So I actually had no want to buy one of my own, because I was riding one for free. I didn't have to pay the livery. I didn't have to pay the feed. I just, you know, had to buy my friend a meal every now and again. Worked for me. So we turn up at this farm, and this lady, she was pregnant with twins, and she was having a really tough pregnancy. And she had about 7 horses, and she was like in over her head, and she was just trying to get rid of them to good homes. And Maddie popped her head over the fence and whinnied at me. And you know how horses kind of lift their lip as if they're laughing? She did that at me. And it was just kind of like the world stopped. I was like, I need that horse. So I bought her in the car ride home with my friend, off my friend, without even riding her.
Gosh.
Don't recommend. Not recommend. So I didn't even watch her move. And again, do not recommend doing that. But I was very inexperienced horse kind of owner. She was my first horse, but I had her at my friend's, and then I moved to several yards where I had people I trusted that could help me kind of bring her along. And I don't regret it. You know, I think if you've got the right kind of help and the right kind of mentors, why not, as long as it's safe.
So that's a lovely story. I was going to say, did you talk to her? And I was then going to follow that up with the question, and what did she say back? But you've already answered that one. She opened the conversation by all accounts.
Yes.
I know.
Sounds really sweet.
Yeah.
But you have more horses now?
No, I don't, because she was kind of like, the end was quite dramatic and it was quite heartache filled. No, I don't have another horse. And plus, with everything with lockdown, horse prices just rocketed. I have dogs, love dogs, will always have some sort of animal, but no, I don't have a horse at the moment.
Right. But you still ride this friend's horse?
No, I don't at the moment, because I'm actually, I know, completely cut myself off from horses at the moment.
Do you know, I think that's sensible. Anyone who's heard me on this podcast before will know that horses and I have a bad history. One fractured skull, subdural hemorrhage, and 16 stitches to my legs. Various other injuries. Horses are dangerous.
I mean, you've told us a lot about Maddie there, and I sort of want to get into things like whether you consider her condition was triggered by the horse racing industry and early training, or too hard, too early training. We can touch on that, perhaps.
Yeah, you know, I have grown up with, my dad has a big horse racing fan. He's owned racehorses. He's never ridden them. He's never trained them. He's owned them. So I've been in the winner's circle. I've always been quite immersed in kind of the racing and the gambling side of horse racing.
Mm-hmm.
So I have where I have a lot of respect for horse racing is the athleticism. The athleticism of the jockeys and these horses is fantastic. You see, like, and everyone, you know, it's the taboo subject of the Grand National. I think you look at these horses as pure athletic machines, and they are fantastic. The muscle and the strength that goes into these sorts of jumps, and the sort of, you know, the heart of gold and the bravery of these jockeys, it's fantastic. I personally could never do this. However, when you come down to the training from an anatomical point of view, yes, I do think they are started too early. However, I see why they are started early, because to get a good racing record, you have to do a lot of races, and they've got to win and they've got to lose some. And the older they get, it's like with anything with age, the muscles start to age, the, you know, the fiber velocity starts to reduce, the metabolism of these muscles and the, you know, the tensile strength that they can produce ultimately decreases. That's what happens with age. You know,
don't we know it, Mike?
Yeah. Can we change the subject here? Yeah.
I did a 15-mile walk at the Brecon Beacons at the weekend. I'm still feeling it now.
Yeah, particularly over, you know, when you get really elderly, like 40 years old or something.
Oh,
it's not old.
I think.
Carry on, Emily. We so rudely interrupted you.
No, like, I do think that, like, as physiotherapists, we're taught about skeletal maturity and when bones fully ossify. And it is a very well-known fact. And I'm sure if any physios are listening to this, they are kind of screaming at me saying, say it. The spine ossifies at 6 years old. So when you put a rider on the horse at 2, their spine hasn't fully matured, which is why you have such a high prevalence of kissing spines and all these orthopedic conditions in racehorses. Now, don't quote me to any research because I can't give you that. It's just from my own experience. I've seen so many racehorses with kissing spines. You know, one of my big mentors said, if you x-ray any x-race horse's spine, you'll find some point that's kissing, you know. And you've got to think logically, putting the weight of a person, yes, it's a jockey and yes, it's reduced weight, it's still going to do something to the biomechanical stresses of the spine. So therefore, of course, it has its downsides, but because it's such a big part in kind of the equestrian kind of name, as soon as you think of horses, you think of horse racing. If you're like a complete layman, you don't think of the beautiful show jumpers or the endurance riders or the dressage. You think of the races that is on every Saturday on Betfred or Bet365. That's what you think of. And, you know, I don't agree with them from a physio standpoint, being raced at 2 and 1 for some ages. But I think the racing industry has come quite far in comparison to where it has been in kind of training methods and kind of understanding the biology and the anatomy of the animal.
Yeah, okay. It has indeed.
So which came first, the physiotherapy or the animal?
The animals in the horse or animals in general?
Well, why veterinary physiotherapy?
Well,
yeah, why not humans? I've got a sore elbow.
Yeah, my knees have been aching.
A physiotherapist.
My knees are really aching. I've been walking out and
tennis elbow, mate. It's awful. And if you'd been a human physiotherapist, there'd be one more human physiotherapist, make it more likely to get seen.
Yeah.
So why veterinary? Why veterinary?
There is a very good reason to why I'm doing physio. So ever since I could talk, I wanted to be a vet. That's all I ever wanted to be.
Mhm.
Did my GCSEs, got A stars, got A's, got to A levels.
And saw
my
the
God,
light.
Yeah. A levels are the bane of my existence. I hated them. There were many a chemistry level where I was in tears. I am just not math orientated. Kind of got to A levels and I was like, right. Did my first round of mocks, and I knew it was like a kind of a gut plummeting moment when I knew I will not get the grades to qualify for veterinary medicine at university. So I thought, okay, if I'm not going to get the grades, let me compromise and let me still do something that I'm working with animals, but make it easier on myself so I don't put as much pressure on myself and ultimately set myself up for a fail. Because anyone who knows me, and I'm sure my friends who will listen to this, I'm a complete perfectionist. I'm a complete control freak. Everything is done the way I like it, very kind of unmoving on things. And it comes to kind of academia, I have to gain the highest qualification I can. Otherwise, to me, I've not done it right. So from someone who's gone from A's and A stars at GCSE to go to D's and U's at A level, it was soul destroying. Honestly, it took me a good couple of months to kind of bring myself out of this and kind of realize I'm not going to be able to do what I've always wanted to do, or I wouldn't be able to go straight into it. So I kind of looked around on kind of UCAS and, you know, talked to different people, and I had always gone on work experience. And then veterinary physiotherapy came up, and I read, and there was currently 3 courses in the UK that offered it at that moment in time. So I went to all their open days, I read all their prospectuses, and I thought, I can see myself doing this. So I got the grades and I got in. And honestly, I wouldn't want to do anything else now. I wouldn't want to train to be a vet now. This is what I want to do. And, you know, I think everything definitely happens for a reason. And I don't view myself as a failure for not getting into vet med, because I achieved a first class honours at veterinary physiotherapy on my degree. And I think the dean told me that my dissertation was the highest scoring in my year. So I did pretty well.
Gosh, and this was on the massage of tibio. Gosh, the effects of massage on the equine tibia tarsal joint range of motion when applied to the hamstring group.
Yeah, so I was looking at, so a big thing in kind of physio is you one of your big tools is massage, and there's so much anecdotal evidence out there that says, yes, if you massage this place, it will improve the range of motion of this joint. However, there was no kind of empirical data saying this. So you're given like a list of titles, and I was like, yeah, I want to do that one because that one's practical. And I then started researching, and there was literally no evidence anywhere supporting anything. Everything was anecdotal. So I wanted
Makes
to
your reference list nice and short, doesn't it? Easy one writing.
No, mine was very long.
I'm joking.
It was kind of like inference from different things. But yeah, so I looked at whether targeting a specific muscle group, knowing kind of theoretically that it kind of moves the stifle, if I massage that, would it improve the range of motion? And it did in walk, not trot. So
right.
Which was interesting.
And how often were you massaging the horses?
So I did one massage session, and then so I recorded them before, I recorded them after, and then I recorded them a week later. So there were, I think, thinking back to it, there were some long-term effects, but nothing was significant in trot, which I found very interesting, because that means in your kind of talking like your athletic animals, so your agility dogs or your dressage horses, don't massage before you're going to do that, because it's not actually going to improve range of motion. You want to do your stretching or some sort of different exercise.
Right.
So when do you advocate massage then?
Massage is great for so many different reasons. reasons, but it has to be used correctly in the correct sort of situation. So for example, it's great post-operative, but I'd never recommend an owner to do it post-operative, because you can get too close to the incision site, it's already very inflamed, and you can end up causing more damage than actually you want, because obviously you're going to be stimulating the tissues and you're going to increase the blood flow to the area. So blood flow to a newly operated wound isn't ideal.
Not ideal.
But no. But massage before, kind of as a warm-up technique, if that's your aim, I think is a great idea. It's more being specific on what you want to aim to achieve, rather than when is massage really applicable, because I could tell you massage is applicable in mostly any scenario, but it's the aim of the massage of whether I would do it or not.
So you can, ignoring immediate post-operative massage, then you can do harm if you massage wrong, you're saying?
When you kind of give owners exercises and homework, as I like to call it, they take what you say very literally, and they do literally as you say. So if you just say massage that leg, they will massage that leg, and every kind of intuition almost goes out the window, because they're putting their trust in you as a professional. So they're like, well, she's told me to do that, so I'll massage there anyway. So you can cause extra blood flow to get to the post-operative wound, which could cause slight tearing, but also you can cause lymphatic drainage to take away the swelling. So it's kind of like a seesaw really, of kind of how far do you push it. And then that's, again, almost like a how long is a piece of string thing. It's very individualized, and the specific patient will kind of tell you specifically, if that makes sense.
It makes perfect sense. And there are right ways and wrong ways to do effective massage, aren't there?
Oh, yeah. And I, when learning it, thought, no, it's just massage. Can't go wrong. Oh, no, you can. Because I'll tell you now, if anyone's ever had a sports massage and they press that one point, oh my God, is the most painful thing. My chiropractor, she presses points in my shoulders, I feel it in my eyebrows. And, if you continue to kind of irritate that, very tight, taut band of, muscle tissue or trigger point or stress point, you can cause a hell of a lot of pain, and you can cause lameness from it, because, you've irritated a hyper irritable area. So the only thing the body's going to do is contract further to protect itself.
I was always told to breathe through it.
The difference is we can tell a person when to stop. An animal can't. And specifically, like when talking about dogs, they show very subtle behavioural signs of pain, and a lot of the times you don't pick up on them unless you're very kind of focusing on them. And obviously whenever you're treating an animal, you do focus on the animal, but when you're doing physio, you're talking to the owner, you're moderating what you're doing, so sometimes you miss those really subtle cues, and you can get bitten quite quickly, because especially if they're in quite a lot of pain, they're not afraid to tell you to get off. Same with horses, risk of arrow pig.
I used to have a dog like that, and he bless him, it was a strange series of signals. He'd sort of go very wide-eyed, and then his ears would go flat, and he'd yawn, and then he'd start licking, and then he'd bite you.
Yeah.
He was rather a strange dog, wasn't he, generally?
Yeah, he was actually. He got serious neurological problems, and he couldn't walk properly. And he had
many problems.
He had many problems. Bless him. Poor old Bongo.
But there was a crescendo, and he was giving me those signals until he felt the only way to tell people was to bite. I think animals are so intelligent with the way they communicate, and I think it's sometimes simply we're not open to that way of communication, which is why we miss it.
Yeah, he always said he gave me warning. The problem was that whole sequence would take about a quarter of a second.
Yeah.
You had to look very quickly, didn't you? In retrospect, filming it and then watching it on slow motion, you could pinpoint exactly the moment.
Yeah, that exact moment where he was going, no, that's my bowl of food, Dad.
Yes. You can't take from it, you can't give to it, it's mine. Mine.
No.
Whatever. No,
I know, Emily, you're very keen on telling owners how to spot pain in dogs, aren't you? That's one of your stress points, isn't it? The fact that owners often don't recognise when the pet's in pain. We hear it all the time as vets. Owners come in and say, "Well, he's not in pain." And you say, "Well, how do you know that?" Well, he doesn't yelp or anything.
Yeah.
But it's very much more subtle most of the time.
Yeah, or a very common one is, "Oh, but they're so stoic, they're so calm," and I'm kind of like, yeah, but you can have the calmest pet. Like my brother, he is kind of so laid back, he's lying down, and he, on his birthday, a drunken fall, and he fell over and he cut his knee right down to the bone. He wasn't screaming in pain. Mm-hmm. He was sat there laughing, and he goes, "Oh yeah, it does hurt." So you see it in people. He was obviously in intense amount of pain because you could see his bone, but he wasn't showing it. And I see it so many times, the amount of people I've seen that comes in, and because the dog's not hopping lame or screaming, "Oh no, he's not in pain." And I'm like, yeah, he is.
So how do you tell them? How do you inform them what signs to look for?
So me and a couple of colleagues at my job, we created these kind of information PDFs that we send out to our clients kind of periodically, or when we think they need them. So kind of information of different diseases, or kind of advice on cage rest. And one of them is signs of pain. Mm-hmm. And it's a picture, kind of like infographic of different signs of pain. And what I say to a lot of my owners is, a lot of them are incredibly subtle, and they're behavioural signs. So it could be as simple as they don't want to greet you as you come in the door. Mm-hmm. And I kind of liken that to, as I have a mental Cocker Spaniel. She is always at the door, jumping at me to say hello. It would be very bizarre for me if she just went and sat in a corner. However, a more subtle one for her would be not jumping up and down. And, mm-hmm. It's more kind of subtle kind of cues. And I was like, the best way to do it is look at videos, like on YouTube, because until they've seen that sign of pain, they're never going to be able to spot it. And one of my owners, she's fantastic. And she goes, she's not weight bearing as much. And she's fantastic at it. And she's completely right. The dog isn't weight bearing on that leg as much as she was the week before. And it's subtle things like that. As soon as they've got it, they've got it. Mm-hmm. I find that it's usually, you don't have to tell them twice. It's, if they're very keen to go and find out, they'll find out, and then they'll know.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
So you've gone pretty much from college straight into a job, but do you not also have your own company?
I do, yeah. I like to always stay busy.
Right.
So tell us about your company.
So my business is called Nexus Veterinary Physiotherapy. Mm-hmm. So I started this in my first year of university. So it was kind of more as a revision tool kind of thing. So I'd post on kind of Instagram of different things that I found interesting, or I wanted to research further, and I wanted some way to put it down and put it out there. And then that's me. I've put my effort into that, and I've read that paper, or I've analysed that. And, over kind of 4 years now, I've got nearly 3,000 followers, which is something I never expected to have.
Yeah.
And there's other, vet phys accounts that have way more than me, but mine was definitely more about kind of educating people like me, or people who are on a similar course, about things I found interesting. Mm-hmm. So kind of now it's taken more of a shift to kind of educating owners, and more kind of moving away from the kind of pure academia and kind of academic language to kind of owner-friendly posts and things that people can read and they may not have, a degree like I have. They may have something else, but at least they can understand it as well.
Mm-hmm.
So you're a veterinary physiotherapist Insta influencer.
Well, maybe, potentially.
Had to work through that for a while. Yes, got it.
Yeah, but you start. I remember my first year at college. Admittedly, we didn't have mobile phones. We didn't have the internet. We didn't have any of the things that we've got today.
But you can make a very, very good knife out of some flint.
Well, yeah, I could do. Yeah. And did you ever do that one with the 2 tin cans and the length of string?
Yeah, that was our mobile phone, wasn't it?
Yeah. So
the cordless version didn't work, did it?
That was that. No, the cordless one was rubbish. But what I was alluding to there was that I didn't feel I had very much time in my first year. And yet you're telling us that in your first year, not only did you start your first year of your degree, you set up a company, you'd already just got a horse, Maddie, and you set out on Instagram. Really?
Yeah. Like I said, love to stay busy.
Right.
And got a first class honours.
Yeah. My proudest achievement to date.
And quite rightly so. Absolutely. No, when did you graduate? Did COVID impact your college course at all?
It didn't, luckily. We didn't have to wear masks in the ceremony, which I was quite pleased about.
Mm-hmm.
I graduated in October, so I passed all my exams in August, and then I graduated in October.
So your final year was impacted then?
Yeah, my final 2 years, really. And for someone who loves going to lectures, like I would be the annoying person in the back that would always put their hand up and answer the question.
We know about them, don't we, Julian?
Yeah.
That was me. I'm pretty sure my class, rolled their eyes every single time I asked a question. But alas, I was not there for them. I was there to learn. So, it really affected our final 2 years. I think a lot of our exams in our second year were delayed, and we had to do them at the beginning of our final year, which was quite stressful, going into your final year, starting your dissertation, but saying you have to pass these exams, otherwise we don't know what we're going to do with you yet. And we're like, oh, okay.
Oh,
that's a bit
harsh. A bit of a worry, yes. No pressure.
If you don't pass your second year exams, you don't go on to third year. So what would we do if we failed the second years, but we were already in year 3? It was very confusing. And, to be fair, they had the uni had never gone through anything like that before. Organisation was up in the air, as everything was at the time. I don't think anything really could have improved the way they went about it, because they tackled it as and when they had the information, along with about probably 100, probably a bit less, vet phys students from multiple years saying what's going on. So they were doing quite a lot in considering, it was very irritating at the time, me thinking, I'm paying all this money for this course, I'm not being told anything, and I'm still required to pay the full tuition fee, even though I didn't have what I considered my money's worth.
So you weren't getting that face-to-face contact, and that
there was very well politically worded answers.
I see.
And they kind of steered it away when they needed more time, and they'd come back with a bit more information, but it was never the information we wanted, or it was never the information we needed. So a lot of the answers were quite well worded and quite strategically worded, but then again, they have to. I don't think, honestly, I did complain about it at the time because I was in the situation at the time, so why would I not? But looking back on it, I don't see how they could have done anything else. they were in a really tough situation, dealing with final year students, dealing with students from their final year that failed a station, and then dealing with new students and continuing students. They had so much to deal with. So, you know.
I know, it's really difficult. The problem is that there are some winners, but they're very few, aren't there? The majority of people suffer as a result of it. You suffered.
Exactly.
You didn't necessarily suffer in your degree. You got a first class honours. Well done for that. But you paid relatively more for that than someone who'd had the bells and whistles, not belts, bells and whistles attached. Perhaps doing the degree the year before. Maybe it is belts and whistles actually for physiotherapy.
But you know, there was so many students throughout the country on various different courses that experienced the same thing as me. So it wasn't like our course was the only course in the UK experiencing this. It was the whole kind of student population of university degrees. So that's kind of why I'm not so angry about it, is because I wasn't the only one, and there were so many people like me in the position where you're kind of in your final stages of your degree, you're paying an awful lot of money, but you're not getting what you think you should be getting out of it.
Yeah.
So
would you, do you think you got the university life though, the university flavour?
With the university I went to, it was a mixed education provider. So it provided lower education courses as well. So that means kind of, you know, your GCSEs and your kind of level 3s and your BTECs. So campus life had to be very restricted to kind of gear towards the under 18s. So for all like people with the big unis that would put on the big uni events, this university couldn't do that because of safeguarding issues for the younger students. So no, I don't think I got what other people consider the university experience, but I never went to university for that. I went to get a degree, and that's ultimately why I went. I didn't go for the uni life. I didn't go to get drunk every weekend. I went to study. And, you know, I've always professed like I'm a massive nerd and I'm a massive geek, but that is why I went. I went to study a degree because I see no point going to university, spending $9,000 on tuition fees, a further $8,000 on accommodation, just to come out with a degree you're never going to use. To me, that's a very pointless debt to have.
So what is your tipple of choice?
Oh, I love Prosecco.
Okay. Yeah, controversial.
Yeah, not many people like it, but I love Prosecco.
Well, do you know, I'm going to go out on a limb here. I don't like Prosecco, and I don't know whether it's something just snobbish in me, or whether I haven't had the right Proseccos. I love champagne, and I love some of the English sparkling wines. I live, you know, a 2-minute walk from one of the best English sparkling wine producers in one of the best in England. It would be the English sparkling wine producer, wouldn't it? So, you know, but I love sparkling wine generally.
I think the other two are trying to catch up.
They're not doing too badly, and I'm giving them a run for the money. Yeah. So, Emily, we'll leave Prosecco for a moment, because I noticed we're roughly sort of halfway through the show, and we've learned an awful lot about your journey through the end of Maddie's life and the hard decisions that you made, and the fact that it spurred you on to do your physiotherapy course. We learned a lot about that course as well. Have you come across in your travels something called 60 Second CPD?
I was dreading this moment. Brings me back and the pressure of the verbal exams. But yes, I have prepared for this.
Okay, so, wonderful. What do you have for us?
I would like to talk about the importance of warm-ups and cool-downs, hopefully in 60 seconds.
Okay, all right.
Well, fit it all in.
All right. Well, let me key you in on this then. So, congratulations! Thank you for joining us on this one, 60 Second CPD. Tonight we've got Emily Woodbridge, physiotherapist, veterinary physiotherapist, who's going to do 60 seconds on the importance of warm-ups and warm-downs, starting now.
So the main aims of warm-ups and cool-downs is to prevent injury, to help geriatric exercise, and to improve the efficiency. So with warm-ups, you're aiming to improve the temperature, the metabolism, and the fibre conduction velocity, so meaning the speed in which the muscles send it to the brain. And the things you want to include is cardio, so trotting, light forelimb and hind limb movements, mild plyometrics, so jumping, and active stretching, not passive stretching, as this has actually been proven to decrease muscle function. With cool downs, it's really important because you reduce any lactic acid buildup, you reduce the onset of delayed muscle soreness, so DOMS, and really important things to do is walking and any type of stretching, so passive or active, so that's protraction, retraction, and the spinal stretches.
Wow, and there you go.
There you go.
1 minute exactly, 60 seconds. Fantastic.
Second CPD. Well done.
Excellent. I was thinking, as you said that, I mean, we'll go into this in a bit more detail. My first thought was, I mentioned earlier that I went on a 15-mile walk in the Brecons over the weekend.
Did you warm up?
No, I didn't warm up. Got out of the car, got my stick, went up the mountain.
There you go.
And did I warm down, cool down afterwards? No, I didn't. I had the rest of my flask of coffee and sat in the car and went back home.
And there you go. And that was what, 4 days ago, and you're still
4 days
feeling the effects.
Yeah, still a bit stiff in the old knees, you know.
There we go.
Yeah. The Vikings knew the importance of a good warm up and cool down before and after battle. They do calisthenics and stretches and things, apparently.
Really?
I don't know that.
No, I made that up. Sorry.
I was only thinking you were serious then. I was like, oh wow.
Yeah, no, you fell for that old trick. Yeah, I'm really serious for too long. And I've been serious for a good, I'd say 3 or 4 minutes. So that's about the limit.
There we go.
So yeah, warming up and cooling down.
CPD on Viking warm up and warm down then, is it?
That's why they never got Thor.
Yeah.
Thor. So Mike, presumably you would have done warm ups and cool downs when you were, because Mike was actually at the height of notoriety as a speed skier and as a speed cyclist in his day. Really,
we would always do warm ups and warm downs. Yeah,
it's so important.
Well, it is. I have to say, after some of the bike races, if it was a road race and you've been out on the road 3 hours plus, etc., the idea of sitting on your bike for another 20 minutes was a bit onerous at times. And the whole idea of warming up for half an hour before you start was a little bit onerous. But yeah, we used to do that. We used to do warm ups, warm downs. Not so much the stretching. Stretching, I think, has been shown certainly in sprint cycling to be detrimental to fast twitch response.
I do always warm up when I'm skiing.
Yeah.
And I never do for anything else. And I think it's just because when I learned to ski, you'd always learn, if you went to ski school, you'd always start with a warm up, and so it was drummed into me, and I'd never really thought about it, but I always do it. The other thing is it's cold. It is physically cold, and you get off the chairlift, and first thing you want to do is massage those legs and warm yourself up a bit, and just jump up and down on the spot and get a bit loose. So, but I used to climb to a fairly high level. I didn't really warm up as such. I would climb some easier climbs first, but I wouldn't do a whole heap of stretching and things. But now you're saying stretching maybe isn't the best thing anyway.
Not passive for a warm up, especially like with your sprinting or your fast exercise, like agility or show jumping or racing. You don't want to be kind of pushing the leg into protraction or retraction. You want to be doing more active. So like, for example, with dogs, like a play bow or them turning, that's really good active stretching because they're doing it themselves rather than you're forcing, encouraging a stretch. Because I know I don't know any research papers off the top of my head, but I know that research has been done and it has been kind of found to be detrimental to kind of like tensile strength or kind of force contraction capacity of muscles if you passive stretch them prior to and it has been, I think it has been proven to reduce proprioception as well. Don't quote me, but that's just what I've been told.
I used to fall over a lot.
That'd be a bad thing before you climb, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Reducing proprioception.
Yeah.
So
and riding a bicycle.
Yeah. But I do cool down after climbing.
That's normally with a pie and a pint, isn't it, in the pub?
Well, yeah, absolutely. Take the sweater off. And, yeah. So always cool down. It's usually pretty cold anyway, to be honest.
Yeah, that temperature is a good way to cool down, but cool down's more kind of like about your nervous system, about getting that to cool down, which a lot of people don't really consider. More people consider, right, I'm really warm, got to cool down temperature wise, but it's more kind of getting your parasympathetic nervous system to kick back in and kind of calm everything down.
Was it having a spliff or a pint or something?
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, okay. That's good. At last, some sensible advice on this show. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Thanks. We've been waiting for ages. Done this show for 2 years.
We cannot advocate the smoking of marijuana on the show.
No, absolutely not. You can make it into brownies instead if you don't like smoking.
Yeah.
No. Don't take drugs.
No.
Yeah. Don't take drug, kids, because look what it did to him and me. Yeah.
You lose your hair.
Yeah.
I've never taken drugs. They've always been given to me. No, I haven't. The fact is, I've been boring. I haven't really. So. Yeah, that sounds cool. Oh yeah, no, I haven't really. Yeah. But alcohol, of course, is well known for cooling people down after vigorous exercise, and so I'd strongly suggest a nice pint of real ale, and then you sort of passively stretch against the bar, and then lie basically about what you climbed that day.
And how quick you were and how you got over that overhang.
Absolutely.
Yeah, heard it all before.
Perfect cool down.
Yeah. What do you think of ice baths then, Emily?
Oh, for animals, if it's an ice bath just after exercise, no, definitely not.
Why?
Because you can't really reason with them. So I'm sure they have the benefits like it does with our athletes, but you can't reason with a dog. You have to stay in this freezing cold water. And you're likely more going to cause an injury because you're going to be trying to put them in and they want to get out and they're like, no. With horses, you can have like cold water spas, which are really good. But the horse has been kind of habituated to that kind of therapy over, a couple of weeks. So they're not going to freak out. But no, I don't recommend them really. I don't think they're conducive in any sort of therapeutic way for an animal, simply because you can't explain to them why you're doing it.
I couldn't explain to myself why I was doing it.
Oh no, the torture.
But do you think it helped?
It did actually. Yeah, very much so. It was very peculiar to actually lower yourself into an ice bath, and you're going, oh my god,
yeah,
oh my god,
yes,
oh my god, it's going to do me good. It's yes. Bloody hell, oh god, and numerous other adjectives that would be used to describe the sensation. But after about, I don't know, 5 minutes or so, you sort of start to feel warm inside.
And your skin feels superheated, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's an interesting experience. Never really got into it as far as advocates of Wim Hof get into ice baths. But no, it was certainly interesting. So listen, Julian, Emily's delivered some fantastic CPD tonight. Have you got a CPD certificate?
By sheer chance, I have.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Can you imagine the coincidence? So here
Wow.
we go. I've got a certificate of poorly leggedness,
all right.
and it says this certifies that we like to move it, we like to move it, we like to move it.
All right. Okay. What?
Physically fit.
You mean like that?
That's it, just like that. Yeah.
Okay. Brilliant. Okay.
Great song.
I love that song. I tell you why I love that song. You're probably ahead of me on this. It's in a film called Madagascar.
Oh, that's
And
why I love it as well.
it's King Julian.
Yeah.
King
He's
Julian.
great.
Yeah.
He's the best character in that.
Oh yeah, we like to move it. So what have we got? We've also
I knew I
got,
set myself up for something there. Come on. So what we got? We like to move it. Physically
now,
fit.
physically fit. And this is a cat that had a tail pull injury and a
There are
bilateral
other ways to
sacro-
swing a cat, aren't there?
There are other ways, yeah. But the room was big enough ultimately.
Good.
It was a way during the first lockdown of telling whether you're far enough away from people. So this is a cat had a tail pull injury and a bilateral sacroiliac luxation, and I operated and pinned or screwed both ilial wings back onto the sacrum and amputated the tail. But I still maintain the thing that got it better was, well, two things. One was my wife doing acupuncture because we were worried that there was bladder dyskinesia. And the other thing was intense physiotherapy. And this cat, after 4 weeks, was walking so well that we allowed it out again.
Wow.
And after 12 weeks, you really couldn't tell anything had happened to it.
Fantastic.
Amazing.
Okay. What else we got?
Here's a Labrador, and Emily's looking at that, and I think probably nodding sagely. You can tell it's got quite a swollen elbow, and the elbow is being held out at an abducted angle. And this poor little dog has quite severe elbow arthritis. And what we did with this dog, in fact, was to do an op that at the time was all the rage. This was about 12 years ago. It was a sliding humeral osteotomy, where you make a cut in the humerus and move the humerus over to the medial side a little bit. So you push the weight back onto the lateral compartment. And it's normally the medial compartment that's affected with the elbow. And this dog did very well, again, with physiotherapy, because it had to learn to walk at a different angle.
Right.
The next picture is me recovering from my neck fusion after my slipped disc. And physiotherapy was incredibly important for me because at the time I couldn't interdigitate my fingers and touch respective portions of my finger.
Quite an important skill for a surgeon.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so I had to have intense physiotherapy to learn how to move my thumb again. And as you can see, I can do that now. But pretty well.
And what's this? Oh, we got a trainee racehorse there.
Here's a trainee racehorse, little foal there. That's what technically we call baby horses. See, so I still remember the stuff. It's been 20 odd years since I treated horse.
Yeah.
Still remember a little foal here. This was not one I treated because I don't get near them any. And
you've got a picture of you.
Well, here's a camel. Here's a camel.
That was another grumpy photo of me.
It looks a bit like a grumpy photo of Mike, doesn't it? But no, it's a camel.
Okay, right.
With the face. And this was a camel that I treated when I was working at Chessington Zoo. And it hated me, and it used to spit the contents of its stomach at me with unerring accuracy. And it did it 4 months later, after I'd stopped working at the zoo. And I came back to look around and visit, and I brought some friends. And I went up to see the camel, and I timed it just right and stepped a foot to the right, and it missed me and got my friend. It's fantastic.
Oh, it's one of those moments you had on video.
No longer a friend, actually, yeah. So, okay. And finally, here's me wearing a rabbit outfit.
Very good.
So there we go. I haven't got any pictures of physio being done on rabbits, but I'd like to know your view. Is rabbits a prey species? They get very nervous, and so I imagine they're not tremendous patients for physiotherapy?
I must say, I've never treated a rabbit. However, I do know, I have heard down like the grapevine that someone does treat rabbits, and that is their whole business, physiotherapy on rabbits.
Well, there we go.
I would not be able to tell you their name. It's just that I know that someone out there exists.
Wow, what an evening. Emily, thank you very much indeed.
No problem. My absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
No, you've
been lovely.
You're very welcome. And I think, I mean, all it behoves me to say at this point is if you've enjoyed listening to Emily, then stay tuned, tell your friends, share, like, link, click all those things that you do on social media, and get more people to come in and listen.
Yeah.
And if there's any topics that you'd like us to go further into, tell us and we'll do our best to do so. So, Emily, at this point, all it remains for us to do is to raise our, used to be a glass.
We're old now, so we just drink coffee.
Just drink coffee. Right, raise a glass. Oh, look at that. Raise a glass to you.
Emily's holding up a litre of red wine. Good on you, Emily.
Yeah, well good done. On you, Emily. That's brilliant stuff. May your dog go with you.
May your dog go with you.
May your dog go with you.
Cheers.
Cheers.
And cut.
There we go.
How was that?
That was really fun. I really enjoyed that.
Good. We've enjoyed it too.
We have, immensely.
Yeah, fantastic. Brilliant, Emily. Right.
Thanks so much, Emily. Lovely to meet you.
Lovely
yes,
to meet
it was so lovely to meet you both.
Thank you very much indeed.
Take care.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.